Ready to really level up your English.
Let's do it.
Today, we're diving deep into pronunciation.
Nice.
Based on that English Mastery episode, you know the one?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I loved their take on it.
Yeah, it's amazing how much confidence comes with, really nailing your pronunciation.
It really is. It's not just about being correct. It's about expressing yourself clearly, feeling confident.
Totally.
Yeah.
I know I'm always impressed by people who could just glide through those tricky sounds like it's nothing.
Right.
And one thing I found really interesting about that episode, they really emphasized listening as the foundation.
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Like it's how we learn to speak in the first place.
Exactly. We pick it up naturally just by being surrounded by the sounds. They were really big on audiobooks and, news podcasts.
Yeah. Because of the clear pronunciation.
Exactly.
It's like you're training your ear before you even open your mouth.
It's true. And they made a good point about the pacing, too. Like audiobooks and podcasts, they tend to be a little slower, more deliberate.
Right. Especially compared to like everyday conversation.
Exactly.
It's like learning a musical instrument. You wouldn't try to play, like a Rachmaninoff concerto on day one, right?
Yeah.
You got to start with the scales.
Exactly. You got to get the basics down.
The building blocks.
Speaking of which, they had this really cool technique they call shadowing.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever tried that?
It's like you find a YouTube clip or something, right? And you just basically try to imitate the speaker.
Yeah. Like as closely as you can.
It's like a workout for your mouth.
It is. And it's amazing because you're not just mimicking, you're internalizing those sounds, the rhythm, everything.
It's like you're not just learning the steps to a dance, you're feeling the music.
Exactly.
But even with all the listening and shadowing in the world, there are always those sounds, those pesky sounds.
Oh, tell me about it. Like the bane of every language learner's existence.
They're like speed bumps on the road to fluency.
Right. And the podcast, they actually called out a few of the big ones.
The thir sound,
Yeah.
always a classic.
Oh, yeah.
And then that V versus W thing.
So tricky.
I mean, I still catch myself messing those up sometimes.
Oh, totally. But I think the important thing that the podcast highlighted is that everyone struggles with certain sounds.
It's so true. It's not about being perfect. It's just about practice.
It's like our mouths are capable of making so many sounds.
It's incredible when you think about it.
But some of them just take, a little extra work, like training a muscle.
And speaking of training, they had that great tip about practicing in front of a mirror.
Oh, yeah, the mirror.
Have you ever done that?
It feels strange at first.
But it's so helpful, right?
Because you can actually see what your mouth is doing. It's like having, instant feedback.
Exactly. And then they took it a step further. They were like, record yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Which I have to admit, I'm always a little hesitant to do.
It's brutal.
Because nobody likes to hear their own voice.
No, but it's so helpful.
But it's true. It's like you don't realize, maybe you're mumbling. or how you sound to other people.
Yeah, it's objective.
Exactly. Okay, but then they went into this whole thing about, like, the music of English.
Oh, yeah.
The stress, the intonation, the rhythm.
All of it, the nuance.
Right. And they had that great example they were talking about.
Oh, with the sentence.
Yeah, I want to go to the store.
Yes.
And how, depending on which word you emphasize, it changes the meaning.
Exactly. It's like, I want to go to the store, or
Yeah.
I want to go to the store.
Totally changes it.
It completely changes the
Like,
meaning.
that's all intonation, right?
It's all intonation and stress and how we use our voices.
It's fascinating how much it impacts what you're saying.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, but then they brought up something I thought was really interesting, this idea of connected speech,
Oh, yes.
which sounds very technical.
Yeah. Like, what is that?
But it's basically like when native speakers kind of blend words together.
Yeah, like shortcuts.
It's like, instead of saying, what are you doing? It's what you doing.
Exactly.
It's so natural.
It is.
But it's something that, you might not learn if you're not, immersed in the language.
It's those little nuances. Yeah.
And they made the point that it's not just about sounding, more casual or fluent, but it actually can make your speech clearer.
Oh, for sure, because it's like, it just flows.
Right, because you're not like over-enunciating every single syllable.
Exactly.
So we've got listening, we've got shadowing, we've got tricky sounds, stress, intonation, connected speech. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot to think about. And then, you know what they say?
What's that?
Practice makes perfect.
Oh, here we go. Getting out the motivational posters.
I know, right? But it's true.
But they did have one more thing. And this one I thought was kind of fun.
Okay, tell me.
Tongue twisters.
Oh, yes.
A classic.
So fun.
And, you think of it as just like a silly game.
A party trick to
Yeah.
impress your friends.
Exactly. But they were saying that there's actually value in it
Oh, yeah.
because you're really exercising those mouth muscles.
Totally. You're exaggerating those sounds, which is like the best way to train your mouth.
But it's like you can do them anywhere.
Totally.
Yeah.
On the bus, in the shower.
Exactly. Like nobody has to know.
Yeah.
But it's good for you. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about listening, shadowing, those tricky sounds, stress, intonation, connected speech, tongue twisters. I mean, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest takeaway from that English mastery episode, for me at least, was that it's a process. It's not like you wake up one day and bam, you have perfect pronunciation.
Right. It's like anything else. You got to be patient. You got to celebrate the small victory.
Totally. Like when you finally nail that th sound.
Yes.
Or, you're listening back to yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, my connected speech is so much better.
It's those little moments.
Yeah. It's all about progress, not perfection.
Totally.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here, inspired by that English mastery episode, I'm curious, what's one pronunciation challenge you think you're going to tackle?
I've always struggled with the R sound.
The R sound.
I think that's going to be my focus. I'm going to really hone in on that.
I love it. I'm going to break out the tongue twisters, I think.
Nice.
A little she sells seashells by the seashore action. Well, there you have it. A deep dive on pronunciation. Thanks for listening, everybody. Until next time.